It's time to boost your business's success by knowing when to call back interested leads. We're going to share tips and tricks on how to do just that on today's show. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another week and another episode of Built to Scale. I am your host, Jeff Lambert. I am here with my co-host, Rogelio Rodriguez. Rod, happy Tuesday.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Rod, I'm excited to talk about today's topic because we're going to get into, I think, what every salesperson struggles with, and that's figuring out timing. What's the cadence you should follow when it comes to calling back leads and trying to close that sale? This is going to be a good one. And I know you've been in the trenches on this for a while. Do you feel like you've grown in your ability to help expand the conversation over the years, or is it something you still struggle with daily?
No, I think it's just a matter of getting it done, right? I think oftentimes we get, as salespeople, we get stuck in this like making judgments of what the lead could need be about, how you can help them, or even wasting time by prepping for the call when you haven't even had the conversation with them. So
Yeah.
it's one of those areas where I've become more accustomed with just going for it, right? Like I think like in today's world, speed is the key, right? Speed to lead is what we're talking about when we're trying to increase the conversions that we have from our current leads that we do generate, right? Like I mentioned in the last episode, right? Like I think 78% of the business goes to the contractor that reaches the customer first.
Right.
So the sooner you respond, the higher chances you have of converting that lead, right? And it gives you like this competitive edge. People aren't expecting it to a certain extent, right? People fill out forms online from ads, and they may fill out 3 or 4 because the first form they filled out, that guy or that company didn't reach out to them fast enough, or at least in their mind fast enough, right? And if you think about it, like as a salesperson, you're building a relationship every time, right? So people are expecting that quick and timely follow up, and if you're not able to provide that, then that actually hurts your ability to make that first impression, right? Making sure that you have that prompt response shows you that you value their potential time, right? Because they're looking for it, and obviously, like you're preventing loss of interest, right? The longer you wait, the higher the risk that they're going to start looking everywhere else. Like I mentioned, like they may fill out like 3, 4 ads, right? Forms from ads, and go on to the next person who actually like took the time to answer.
It's a reflection on your business too, isn't it? Your timely
Absolutely,
callback.
absolutely. Yeah.
You got to put that best foot forward. I agree, Rod. Jumping into it a little bit more, I think we all like to think we're a little bit different, right? We're unique as humans, but I also think we also have to realize that humans can be somewhat predictable when we look at behavior like on a large scale. So why do you think it's important? I know you try to incorporate a lot of psychology, a lot of understanding human behavior into your sales processes. Why do you think it's important for salespeople to gain that little extra knowledge about how humans act in certain situations?
Yeah, I think because they're all signals, right? The behaviors provide us insights as to when they're most likely to actually commit to a decision, right? Like it's the reason why when you're looking at like ads, for example, right? From an ad standpoint in lead generation, like you may use Facebook as an awareness tool, right? To stay at top of mind to your customers. But if you do run ads on Google, those ads are intent based, right? They're meant for people who are ready. They're actually shopping. They're ready. They're looking for something to buy. They're not really conducting um, a lot of research. So you got to make sure that the keywords that you target are those related to their personal preferences, their needs. In some instances, when you're targeting, you got to look at the buying power, right? And whatever external influences may be, it could be seasonality, right? When a certain time of the year, like I'll give you an example. We just recently we work with a customer that does windows and doors, specifically impact windows and doors, and there's a hurricane coming to Florida currently, and all of a sudden we have booked schedule, right? Like more leads coming in, booked schedule, right? Because even though it's not affecting South Florida, it's a sign. It's like, oh, like there's a hurricane coming. Maybe I should prepare for the for the possible next one that comes. I'm gonna do research online and start looking, right? Like that's what happens. So like understanding how people think, or it'll help you that take advantage of that, of the situation, in that you're gonna be there, right? And prepared for them to respond to their questions or their intent. Obviously, like you got to look at like things like the time of day that it is, the day of the week, the urgency of the need. All those things are important factors when you're taking into consideration like the way that you reach out to these individuals, right? Like I think like we see a lot of activity in form submissions early in the morning before work,
Yeah.
during lunchtime as well, and then even like after work as well, especially for the home services industries, right? Because people are at work from like 9 to 12. They take lunch at 12, and then they get reminded by their husband or wife that like, hey, like, have you talked to the window people yet? No, let me do that now, and they'll handle it during lunch. Same thing
Let-
after work, right? So there,
Let's
you can see there's times, right, that people behave a certain way.
let's elaborate that on a little more, because I think what you're saying is like there's some real detail that we can dive into there. Based on observing customer behavior, understanding how, like you said, the daily flow of the average human works, what are some questions that salespeople should be asking themselves when determining the best time to call back and continue the conversation?
Yeah, I think the questions that they should ask revolve around like what time of day is the best time to call. What day of the week is the best time of the week to call. What's the urgency of the lead's needs. Like all these, like some of this can be determined by the forms that are used to capture these leads, but oftentimes you kind of have to make a an assumption that the best times are not going to be maybe the best times that you're available, right? Because like, it may even be before you work, or after you end your day. So like as a salesperson, you have to be committed to working on the times during the times that your customers are available, and when it's more convenient to them to have the conversations, right? Even like when scheduling a meeting with them. I mean, like I think like the overarching popular times are 10, 2, and then after 4, right? And after 4 being the most popular times to book a meeting for an in-home sale.
Rod, you make some good points about making sure focusing on speed is so important and taking into account customer behavior. What are the risks of waiting too long to call back a lead?
Yeah, I mean, like just it's expected, right? Customers, consumers, they expect a quick response. So delaying can lead to loss of interest on their behalf, and it can also be perceived as poor customer service, right? It leads to a bad first impression. So, like, let's say I get a lead like Monday and I don't get to them until Friday. What is that telling? What is that saying? That I'm too busy. That I may not care. There's a plethora of different perceived behaviors that like they take on because of that delayed response.
100%. So let's talk specifics then, Rod. What are the best times of day to reach out to your leads?
All right, reaching out. I may have mentioned it a little bit earlier, but like it's 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Right, fresh start right before they get into work, maybe on their commute. Right, they're kind of focused on driving, and you can give them a call so you can set appointments for later.
Yeah.
Mid morning, not really good time because most of them are at work. Depending on it, remember the best times really depend on your audience and who you're targeting, right? If you're targeting individuals that have jobs or that work, that 9 to 11 is probably like a dead zone for you. In the afternoon between like I would say as early as noon and as late as maybe like 2 p.m., that's like a sweet spot there. And in the evening time after 4 p.m. Is a good time to call. And I know for the most part after 6 p.m. like it's considered family time. Um, as long as you're driving value, right, and having a short conversation to get them booked for an appointment, it's still a good time to call after 6, probably like as late as 7, I would say, to call. And then Wednesdays, I mean, like the data says Wednesdays and Thursdays are the best, right, and avoiding Mondays and Fridays. But I personally call every day, so it doesn't like the day of the week. Sometimes I get lucky on Fridays, and they're able to have a conversation. So I think just keep in mind, like, although there are in the data shows that like maybe people answer mostly on Wednesdays and Thursdays, it doesn't mean they don't answer on Mondays and Fridays.
Sure.
Yeah.
You got to tailor it to your audience. I think we need to make that caveat, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, right? Like, I mean, like a business owner, you may call them as early as 7, right?
It's true.
So, yeah,
Depending on where you live, that may be the case. And
yeah,
I think overall, Rod, like we're saying, we're laying out what studies and research show are the best case uses of this information. You got to make it your own. If we're going to bring it all together, Rod, understanding human behavior, making sure you're taking into account the best days and the best times. Do you have any overall tips that you can add to this that can help businesses improve their overall close rates?
yeah. It's really understanding your leads, the target market, your audience that you want to bring in, right? And you have to tailor your approach based on what their interests are, what their pain points are, like, because like that's the reason why they're choosing to go with your service, right? They have a pain, they have a challenge that they need to overcome, and they can't overcome it without your help. So knowing that intimately and how to resolve it, right? Like you're essentially like the impact of doing business with you is going to be apparent if you understand that you're going to remove those pain points from their life, right? And be thoughtful of the time that you call, respect their preferences as well, right? Like, I mean, you can a simple form on your website could tell you the best time to call or the best time they prefer to be called, right? So as long as you have that in mind when you're doing your calling and follow up, I think that'll keep that in mind, staying respectful of their time. The other thing is persistence, right?
Yeah.
80% of sales require 5 follow-up calls after the initial contact. 5. I mean, I've gone as high as 15 calls and then they make the appointment. So like you can't stop. You just got to keep going until they tell you no, stop calling me, you know? And that's fine. Then you can stop calling them. Take them off the list, right?
Yep.
And then I think lastly, use a technology, because like, I mean, you could do this on a notebook or a paper, track your progress, right? But like CRM systems can be helpful in tracking everything automatically, so you don't have to, right? It tracks your calls, tracks your emails. You can track your notes. You can track deals or opportunities that you have with them. So it's a host of different tool sets inside a CRM that can be helpful for you to be able to remember the leads that you have, prioritize them, and also prioritize your follow-up based on their interaction with you.
It's great, fantastic insights, Rod. Thank you so much for sharing these with our audience. How can people connect with you if they want to learn more about sales tips that you're sharing?
They can connect with me online. Most of my social media is at Rod USMC. You can find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can just Google Rogelio Rodriguez, and I should pop up. If I don't, then go to LinkedIn search and you'll find me there.
We'll include your links in the show notes, folks, if you want to follow Rod. He's always dropping knowledge about how to grow your business, faster, smarter, and stronger. Rod, thanks for joining us today. To our listeners and our viewers, thanks for staying with us. And remember, don't stop, keep growing. We'll see you next week.
All right. See you, everybody.